Do you like social media influencers? Or do you think they are all crazy people? Would you like to see what happens if one of these are pushed to their limits? Then the movie Sissy might be right for you. If you'd like to find out more about this film, then stick with me for this short review video. As they were in their early teens, Cecilia and Emma were BFFs. Or at least that is what Emma told Cecilia, until she found out that Alex, another girl, has plowed her way into Emma's life and taken over Cecilia's place. But that was not enough for Alex. She also started to tease Cecilia, who back then went by the name Sissy, by calling her something that after a while the teased Cecilia couldn't take anymore and things got ugly. With the consequences of what happened that day, both Alex and Cecilia had to live for the rest of their lives, being scarred by it. While Cecilia was scarred emotionally, Alex had to wear her scar for the whole world to see. Fast forward roughly 10 years and they are now all in their 20s. Being mostly estranged since that day, Emma runs into Cecilia, and as Emma is about to getting married, she is inviting Cecilia,
"You should come to my hen's weekend. Die."
An invitation that she hesitantly accepts. As this is a horror comedy, of course the location for that bachelorette party is a somewhat remote cabin. Well, it's more of a villa, but still very remote. Arriving there, to her worst surprise, Cecilia finds out that Alex is also a bridesmaid, and she is joining them for this weekend. While Cecilia has tried to put the whole thing behind her and since has become a quite successful social media influencer, not a very big one, but with a solid following, Alex is reminded every day of what happened to her due to Cecilia. So of course she is still bitter and could never have put it behind her.
I'm sorry, but I can't help but find it all a little bit ironic. Once upon a time, she lost her mind and she tried to murder me.
And of course, to tease her, Alex is still calling Cecilia, who is only going by that name now and not by Sissy anymore, by constantly calling her that.
Of all people, Sissy is preaching mental health.
Cecilia.
What are you, rebranding?
As the rest of their party learns about their backstory, they try to keep up the appearance of being neutral, but of course most of them are siding with the victim of physical violence, completely ignoring the psychological violence that Cecilia had to endure when she was a kid. Something that the others are sharing between them when they think Cecilia is not listening. With Alex also keeping on teasing her and pushing her to her limits, even threatening her social media presence.
Cecilia is not as sincere as you think she is.
How will this weekend end? Was Cecilia's outburst back then a one-off? Or will she return to violence to protect herself? Or will Alex finally have her revenge on Cecilia? Or will they just work out their differences in a civilized manner? Just kidding. But how this all ends, you need to check out for yourself. When they showed us the trailer for this movie during the festival, some people were thinking, oh, that is again your run-of-the-mill slasher movie story or something along those lines. And it definitely is some classic kind of a slasher movie at the end of it all. But it also is highly entertaining and has some really nice comedical elements. And the whole social media angle, of course, is quite interesting, especially to someone like me who is also dabbling a little bit in social media. Of course, not on Cecilia's level, but everyone has to start somewhere. In this movie, the acting is very well done, and the cast is also quite interesting because they did a good job in being inclusive in many aspects. The main selling point, though, is that the movie is getting darker and darker by the minute and has some really twisted turns at the end of it. And something that really spoke to me is that it does not shy away from violence and showing that in a completely exaggerated way. And these violent outbursts come with a high quality of special effect work. So it's also something for the gorehound within us. I've heard some people saying that they thought that the build-up is too slow and that the violence is coming in too late. But I think they did the build-up quite right, and I never felt bored with watching this movie. By the way, this movie was taking place in Australia, which I only realized because when they drove to the remote area, they were passing a roadkill that turned out to be a kangaroo. Well, It wasn't quite dead yet, but they dealt with it as you should do in a humane way. Something that later paid off in one of the funniest and darkest sequences the movie has to offer. With that being said, let's get to the rating, but before we do so, let me ask you to like and share this video if you enjoyed it so far. And if you are no subscriber yet, maybe consider to change that. By also hitting the notification bell, you will get a heads up for most of my new videos. And now for the rating. Well, before I let you know my rating, let me just reiterate that I really tried to rate movies in a fair way. What I'm trying to say is, this movie is not high art, but it doesn't want to be. It just wants to entertain you as a horror flick in a classical way. And it should be treated like that. So that is why I say it is at the very least a great flick, where most of the things are done very well. It is not quite excellent yet, but it is somewhere in between, so it is an 8.5 out of 10 points. And some people might not agree because it is just a horror film, but in my opinion there is no genre that deserves to be rated less than another one. And at least with me it helps that I really love the horror genre in general. So, have you seen the movie as well, or are you planning to do so? Are you curious to see how it will end? And what is behind those weird and twisted things that I've hinted to? Let me know in the comments. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching!